After my family's spectacular collapse, I moved into the sprawling estate of Liam Maxwell. Our families, bound by an archaic, almost forgotten childhood engagement, meant his father, Mr. Maxwell, had laid down the law. "Liam," he'd said, his voice firm, "you treat Aubrey right. We're Maxwells. We don't abandon our own when fortune turns." Liam's cold gaze met mine, a silent declaration of his contempt. I knew then, he hated me. From that moment on, he spearheaded my social exile at school. He called me a leech, tossed my belongings in the trash. I never fought back, pliant as clay in his hands. "Aubrey," he once sneered, his voice dripping with disdain, "how far will you grovel for a buck?" I stayed silent, until I handed him every penny I'd painstakingly saved. He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Your dowry, then?" I looked at him calmly, shaking my head. "No, Liam. This is every cent your family spent on me, returned with interest." A small smile touched my lips, perhaps the first genuine one since I'd moved in. "Liam," I said softly, "I'm here to break off our engagement." The first encounter. I'd known Liam Maxwell hated me from the moment we first met. He never bothered to hide it. When Uncle Maxwell led me into the living room, Liam was lounging on a dark leather sofa, the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him flooding the room with sunlight. Dust motes danced in the wide, open air. He lazily lifted his eyes, a dismissive glance sweeping over me before a faint, derisive smirk twisted his lips. "This the parasite you picked up, Dad?" he drawled. I said nothing, but Uncle Maxwell exploded, kicking the back of the sofa. "Watch your mouth, boy. This is Aubrey your fiancé since childhood. Show some respect." Liam's perfectly sculpted brows furrowed, his deep-set eyes fixing on me with the predatory intensity of a wolf. He let out a harsh laugh, turning to his father. "Where'd you dig up this leech? If you want to play humanitarian and adopt stray dogs, that's your business. Just keep them away from me." Without another word, he ignored his father's fuming face, grabbed a tennis racket from the marble table, slung it over his shoulder, and stood up. As he passed me, he paused, tilting his head. He was tall, and his proximity created an suffocating pressure. His voice was icy. "What century are we in? I don't follow my parents' antiquated matchmaking. Don't dream of marrying into wealth. I'll never marry you." At his scathing warning, I simply bowed my head, staring at the plush rug, silent. Once he was gone, Uncle Maxwell apologized profusely, rubbing his hands together in acute embarrassment. "Aubrey, honey, don't mind him. He's been spoiled rotten, a difficult kid, but he's not bad at heart. Just a loose cannon. Don't take it to heart." He then vowed, "You can rest assured, what your father and I decided will come to pass." I sighed faintly. Before coming here, I'd tried to subtly suggest to Uncle Maxwell that he needn't take his old promises to my father seriously. But Uncle Maxwell, a man of old-school honor and stubborn loyalty, viewed a promise as a sacred bond. "How can I do that?" He'd shaken his head. "Years ago, when I was starting out, the bank was hounding me. If your father hadn't lent a hand, who knows where I'd be, collecting cans? No need to bring it up. Your father entrusted you to me. The Maxwells don't abandon friends. We won't betray him." I stayed silent. A new chapter. Our families weren't particularly close. My father had helped Uncle Maxwell during a rough patch, and afterward, Uncle Maxwell regularly visited him during holidays. After I was born, he learned I was a girl and enthusiastically proposed. "My son is around the same age. If you don't mind, we could become family." My father had merely laughed it off, not taking it seriously. My father was a venture capitalist, surrounded by countless associates. But after his investments tanked, the crowds vanished like a receding tide, leaving him alone at the top of our family building, soon to be auctioned off, contemplating suicide. Before he jumped, he frantically scrolled through his contacts, desperately searching for someone to entrust me to. Finally, he called Uncle Maxwell. "Maxwell, I'm entrusting my daughter to you. Can you take care of her for me?" Then, he jumped from the 32nd floor, ending his ruined life. Uncle Maxwell rushed from City A, 1,000 miles away, handled all the arrangements for my father's funeral, and brought me to his home. He told me the Maxwell house was now my home. He promised he wouldn't break his word to an old friend. I thanked Uncle Maxwell for his generosity but gently tried to dismiss the engagement as a joke. Uncle Maxwell, usually so soft-spoken with me, was adamant. This was my promise to your father in his final moments. A gentleman keeps his word. Aubrey, rest assured. Whether Liam wants to marry you or not, he will. He has no say in this. He left no room for argument. I sighed, saying nothing more. I was so young, barely a teenager, yet a series of calamities had forced me to grow up fast. Uncle Maxwell was kind, but I was still dependent on him. So I bit my tongue until I moved into the Maxwell household and met Liam. Liam, despite his reluctance, was bound to marry me. And he absolutely loathed me, making no secret of it. Uncle Maxwell had already arranged my transfer to the most prestigious private academy in City A. On my first day, Uncle Maxwell made time to brief Liam extensively, entrusting me to him, insisting he look out for me. Liam stood at the door, coolly watching his anxious father's ceaseless instructions. Aubrey, if anyone bothers you, tell me. Your first day, make a good impression. I've already spoken to Liam's friends. No one will dare bother you. If anything happens, just find Liam. I nodded obediently. Uncle Maxwell still fretted, wondering if he'd forgotten anything, until Liam, impatient at the door, finally snapped, "Are we going or not? We'll be late." Uncle Maxwell finally relented, carrying my bag to the car himself. The driver was waiting. Liam got in first. Uncle Maxwell handed me my bag, then added, "Aubrey, if anyone bullies you, tell me." His gaze flickered to Liam's handsome profile, a silent warning. Liam's lips curled into a cold smile. I took my bag, whispering, "Yes." I opened the car door and sat next to Liam. At the Maxwell house, I tried my best to avoid Liam. Fortunately, the mansion was huge. Even with my room opposite his, I could easily avoid him. But now, we were in the same car. Even pressed against the far right side, Liam's oppressive presence was undeniable. I tried to shrink into myself. As the car left the Maxwell estate, Liam finally turned, glancing at me with a humorless smile, his indifferent eyes filled with mockery. Well, you actually managed to sweet-talk the old man, didn't you? Got him wrapped around your finger." His voice was chilling. "But you miscalculated. Don't think you found a loophole. I'm telling you straight, he doesn't control me." He tapped the driver's window. "Pull over, Mr. Wang." Mr. Wang, the driver, glanced in the rearview mirror and pulled over. Liam looked at me, a malicious smile on his face. "Get out." I froze, not asking any pointless questions, not hesitating for a second. I simply picked up my bag and silently opened the car door. Then, I closed it, standing on the roadside. The window on my side rolled down. Liam's handsome face appeared in the opening, a sneer on his lips. "Aubrey, you, first day of school. Don't be late for registration." With that, he tapped the front window again. Mr. Wang, looking troubled, couldn't defy Liam. He gave me an apologetic look, rolled up the window, and slowly drove away. I clutched my bag, walking slowly. The Maxwell estate was nestled amidst lush greenery, far from downtown. It took me a long time to reach the bus stop, and even longer to figure out the bus routes. Before my father died, he'd spoiled me rotten. But it was fine. Slowly but surely, I told myself. Aubrey, as long as you keep learning, you'll move forward. I was lucky there was a direct bus to school, but even so, I was late. I found my classroom mid-first period math, taught by our homeroom teacher. I decided against barging in and interrupting, opting to wait by the back door. When the bell rang, signaling the end of class, the teacher walked out, surprised to see me. I smiled politely, introducing myself. "I'm so sorry I'm late." For some reason, the homeroom teacher looked at me coldly. I knew Liam had already spoken to her. She paused, then subtly admonished me. "From now on, be on time. If you can't wake up in the morning, go to bed earlier. Especially on your first day. Being late for registration doesn't make a good impression. Our school isn't like other elite academies. We emphasize holistic development. But for the first day, we'll let it slide. There won't be a next time. I was slightly taken aback, then nodded. Her expression softened, and she told me to follow her. I followed her into the classroom and stood at the front. I saw Liam. He was by the window, seemingly drawn to the light. He was lounging, bathed in a warm glow that seemed at odds with his personality. I averted my gaze. The students below watched me with interest. The teacher asked me to introduce myself. As soon as I said my name, the curious, smiling faces around me burst into laughter, then collectively turned to Liam, an understanding glance passing between them. I heard a male student shout, "Aubrey, you? Is this your bankrupt little fiancé, Liam? Pretty enough, I guess." Liam calmly looked up at me amidst the clamor, his expression aloof, as if I had nothing to do with him. Then, he curled his lips into a malicious smile. My high school years were truly unpleasant. Like Pride of Lions, each class had its cliques and their leaders. Unfortunately, in my class, the boys seemed to defer to Liam, and the girls, to avoid trouble, rarely approached me. Liam didn't directly target me, but his attitude was crystal clear. On my first day, as I settled into my seat, Liam looked at me with a smirk, casually saying, "Aubrey, you parasite. Let's see how long you can freeload off my family." Countless eyes, disdainful and curious, turned to me. I ignored them, arranging my seat, trying to pretend nothing was wrong. From that day on, I was subtly ostracized. But thankfully, I truly didn't want to pretend to be cheerful, optimistic, or fit in. My father had just taken his own life, and I was miles from home, dependent on others. If I didn't have to, I preferred solitude over faking normalcy. I walked alone, headphones on, blocking out the world, quietly navigating the bustling, youthful campus, focusing on my studies and reading. Only when I was alone did I feel safe. A fleeting truce. On my first day home from school, Uncle Maxwell, rushing back from a business dinner, joined Liam and me for supper. He asked me about my first day, if I was adapting, if anyone had bullied me. Liam, across from me, his eyes casually sweeping over my face, was silent. I calmly cut my steak, then looked up, smiling at Uncle Maxwell. I furrowed my brow playfully, feigning recollection, and said with a slight pout, "The school's so big, Uncle. If Liam hadn't shown me around, I'd have gotten lost. The camphor trees smell amazing, and the homeroom teacher is a little strict." I smiled brightly. "But my desk mate is adorable, just a bit chatty. And the cafeteria food is delicious. Liam even took me for braised beef. I loved it." The worried lines on Uncle Maxwell's forehead smoothed with my complaints. He laughed heartily, reassuring me, "Don't worry, honey. You'll get used to it." He turned to Liam, praising him. "Not bad, son. You'll keep an eye on Aubrey from now on, all right?" Liam glanced at me, indifferently. That night, Liam cornered me outside my room. I spent a lot of time in the Maxwell's private library. Uncle Maxwell, a newly rich man, was particularly eager to learn and cultivate his taste. He'd built a vast library, filled with beautiful solid wood bookshelves and countless books. But judging by their pristine condition, no one had touched them. I loved that place, the quiet, spacious atmosphere, the scent of paper and ink. It was comforting. After reading, as I went upstairs, I was surprised to find Liam leaning against the wall, head bowed, playing a video game. Electronic music blared, Pentakill, but Liam's expression remained indifferent. The mobile screen cast a blue light on his face, sharpening his features. I stopped. Liam heard my footsteps, turned, and after a silent moment, turned off his phone. He looked at me, his eyes cold. "Aubrey, you don't think that because you covered for me tonight, my attitude will change." His lips curled in a faint, mocking smile. "That tactic won't work on me." I sighed, calmly looking into his eyes. I tried to be sincere, calling his name for the first time. "Liam, I know you don't like me. But whether you believe it or not, no matter how you treat me, I am incredibly grateful to both you and Uncle Maxwell. We're not related by blood. Everyone took me in, gave me food, shelter, and an education. I have no other intentions, and I don't want to cause any more trouble or inconvenience anyone. In fact, I smiled at Liam. If I were you, if my father suddenly brought someone I didn't know home and told me I had to marry them, my reaction would probably be the same as yours. I'll convince Uncle Maxwell. Liam, don't worry. I won't be an obstacle to you. This was the first time I'd had the chance to honestly express my feelings to him. Liam frowned slightly, looking at me for a long time, as if evaluating the truthfulness of my words. Until he scoffed, turned, and put his hand on his doorknob. As he opened the door, he seemed to remember something, turning back to me. Oh, by the way, Aubrey, has anyone ever told you that you're a very good liar? He was referring to the lies I'd told Uncle Maxwell that night. I looked at him, not bothering to defend myself. The Maxwell house was huge. Besides the housekeepers and driver, it was just Liam and me. After that night's conversation, we entered a brief period of peace. No disturbances, no conversations, like parallel rivers. Though Liam's attitude had softened, I didn't want to bother him. So every morning, I'd dutifully wake up an hour earlier, eat breakfast, then walk 2 miles to the bus stop for the direct bus to school. Uncle Maxwell was busy with work and parties. For the first half-month I was there, he made time to check in, but later, perhaps feeling reassured, he visited less often, always rushing in and out. A glimmer of hope. One time, when Uncle Maxwell found time to have dinner, I asked him, "Uncle Maxwell, could you buy me a bike?" It was the first time I'd asked him for anything. He agreed immediately, then asked, surprised, "But what do you need a bike for?" "If you need to go somewhere, Mr. Wang can take you." I gave an awkward smile. "I'm sitting all day, so I want to bike for exercise." Uncle Maxwell understood, giving me a bewildered smile. "Honey, you're not fat at all. I want you to gain 10 pounds to be considered normal." Liam, sitting across from me, looked up as Uncle Maxwell and I chatted, giving me an indifferent half-glance. Early that morning, I wheeled the bike into the garden to learn. I'd thought riding a bike was simple, and last night I'd only skimmed instructions for an hour. But no matter how rich the theory, once I got on, I realized the bike wouldn't obey me. After falling for the 3rd time, I went back and wrapped knee pads around my legs. I frowned at the pink bike, mentally going through contingency plans. Just as I was about to stubbornly try again, I heard laughter. The first-floor window overlooking the garden was open. Liam stood by the window. I didn't know how long he'd been there or how long he'd been watching, but the smile on his face was different from his usual mocking one. There was genuine amusement in his eyes. He raised an eyebrow, his voice still sarcastic. "First time I've seen someone as clumsy as you. You won't learn in a week like this." He paused. "But then you won't need a bike anyway. You can go to school in a wheelchair." I ignored his taunt. The next second, he placed his hands on the windowsill and gracefully jumped out the open window, landing steadily on the grass like a cat. He brushed his hands together, walked over to me, placed his hand on the back of the saddle to steady the bike, and gestured with his chin. "Get on. Try." I looked at him, surprised. Years later, I still didn't know why Liam suddenly acted that way. Perhaps my clumsiness amused him, or maybe he was simply in a good mood and had nothing better to do that weekend. That weekend, he was always behind my bike, teaching me how to ride. Before Monday arrived, after he let go, I pedaled a lap around the garden. The thrill of accomplishment made me laugh out loud. I called out to Liam, exhilarated. "Liam, did you see that?" A faint smile flickered across his face. "Don't I have eyes?" he retorted. I smiled at him, the first time I'd ever smiled at him so freely, without guard. My lips curved. I looked at him seriously. "Thank you, Liam." Our eyes met for a long moment before he turned away, saying nothing. I watched his tall figure disappear at the end of the garden before looking away. Back then, I thought perhaps one day, Liam and I could become friends. I truly thought that. The illusory friendship. A week into my bike commutes, I met Daniel Kim. After I started biking to the bus stop, I could sleep for an extra half hour. There weren't many students at that bus stop, as most who lived in the area were chauffeured. So, meeting Daniel Kim for the first time was a surprise. He rode a mountain bike. At first, he didn't talk much, but after seeing each other every morning, we'd exchange polite nods and a few pleasantries. I learned his name was Daniel Kim. His villa wasn't far from Liam Maxwell's. He was a year above me, a senior. When he smiled, his features were refined and polite, exuding a gentle warmth. "Strange," he'd commented. "We're only one floor apart at school, but I've never seen you." I didn't like discussing my personal life with outsiders, so I kept it brief. "I just moved here." As our relationship progressed, I'd read on the bus to school every day. At first, he sat 2 rows behind me, listening to music. Later, as we became more familiar, he'd moved to the seat behind me. Seeing me read, he asked, a little surprised, "I didn't realize you were so studious." I thought for a moment before replying, "I need money, so I'm trying for a scholarship." He mused, "Oh," not asking why someone living in a wealthy villa needed money. But from then on, he politely avoided personal questions. My impression of Daniel Kim was quite good. He was always appropriate, thoughtful, and considerate, almost the complete opposite of Liam Maxwell. You could tell someone in his family was involved in politics. Later, he asked me, "Aubrey, would you like to join the school debate team? It would help with the outstanding student nominations at the end of the semester." I shook my head. I'm not good at persuading others, nor am I skilled at verbal sparring. He laughed, reassuring me, "Don't worry, you won't be competing. Just some logistics for the team. It won't interfere with your studies." The debate team's logistics were easy and relaxed, just preparing drinks and ordering food for members during daily practices. In a strange environment, I always cherished helping hands and kindness. So, I joined the logistics department. By the 3rd day, I'd figured out everyone's food preferences. When ordering, I'd take the trouble to order from different places to suit each person's taste. An older girl on the team chuckled, patting my head exaggeratedly. "Oh my God, Daniel Kim, where did you dig up this treasure? She's so good." Daniel Kim smiled at us. Before I dug her up, I didn't know she was such a big treasure. Regardless, I finally had friends, and my schedule was full, making my life feel rich and fulfilling. During that time, my relationship with Liam was relatively calm. Every day, I left earlier than him and came home later. After meals, I'd burrow into the library to read. Besides being in the same classroom, we barely interacted. The harsh reality. I don't know why he got so angry when Daniel Kim appeared. I'd forgotten my book at the debate team's room, so at the end of the 2nd period, Daniel Kim politely knocked on my classroom door, holding my book. I believed I could ride a bike, but for 1 minute. The longest break, 20 minutes, was always the busiest. So, when he stood at my classroom door, almost everyone looked at him. Daniel Kim was also popular at school, probably used to such attention, so he didn't mind. He simply smiled appropriately and called my name. "Aubrey, you forgot your book at the debate team's room." High school relationships are always sensitive. The slightest whisper can lead to speculation. As soon as he finished speaking, I heard murmurs around me. Many eyes scrutinized Daniel Kim and me, then subtly shifted to Liam Maxwell, who was casually twirling a pen by the window. But there was truly nothing between Daniel Kim and me. I only saw him as a friend. Not to mention Daniel Kim, I didn't even have a relationship with Liam. So, I walked over casually, took my book, exchanged a few words with him, and returned to my seat. My deskmate, who rarely spoke, kept looking at me, and finally, unable to resist her curiosity, asked, "Aubrey, you know Senior Daniel?" There was nothing to hide. "I'm on the debate team's logistics." She looked at me intently, drawing out a long O. Then she tilted her head towards Liam. "You and Senior Daniel are so close, and Liam isn't reacting." Her voice was clearly mocking, enjoying the drama. I looked up, silently, with an impassive face, until she caught on and turned away. I considered the incident unimportant. The next day, I still met Daniel Kim on the way to school, and we biked to the bus stop together. After the bus had traveled a short distance, Daniel Kim tapped my shoulder from behind. telling me to look at the black Mercedes-Benz following us. I looked out the window and saw it was the car Mr. Wang usually drove Liam to school in. I was surprised then, not understanding why Liam was going to school so early today. He usually arrived just as the bell rang. I shouldn't have assumed it had anything to do with me. We had a few peaceful days. That weekend, Liam hosted a party at the Maxwell house. Some of Liam's friends I knew, some I didn't. They gathered lively in the Maxwell garden for a barbecue. I always avoided such situations until Liam texted me, asking me to greet a friend of his at the gate. I went outside and discovered that friend was Daniel Kim. Daniel Kim saw me, raised an eyebrow, and smiled, slightly surprised. "Aubrey, you're here too." I led Daniel Kim into the garden, remaining silent all the way. I didn't know if this was a coincidence or if Liam had planned it. I didn't understand his intention until we reached Liam. The garden was buzzing. Liam, in a white shirt with sleeves rolled up to his elbows, was grilling chicken wings. He looked up, smiling at Daniel Kim behind me. "Senior, I didn't expect you to actually come." Daniel Kim's voice was warm. "Since you personally invited me, how could I not? Besides, my father is planning to invite Uncle Maxwell in a few days to discuss the West River land development." I listened silently to their conversation. When they paused, I spoke up. "Liam, if there's nothing else, I'll leave." At this, Liam seemed to notice my presence. He turned to me, casually handing me a freshly grilled chicken wing. His voice was familiar and indifferent. "All right, go." I hesitated, silently taking the chicken wing. I heard him introduce me to Daniel Kim. "This is Aubrey. She's the old man's adopted daughter-in-law. She doesn't like crowds. Don't mind her, senior." A moment later, I heard Daniel Kim. He always maintained a gentle demeanor. "No problem. I don't mind." The party ended very late that night. I curled up among the solid wood bookshelves in the library. I could hear laughter echoing outside until the noise quieted and the garden fell silent. I saw the housekeepers cleaning up the mess outside. It was a long time until the housekeepers were gone from the garden before I left the library for my room. As I passed the living room, I saw Liam. He hadn't gone upstairs. He was sitting alone on the sofa. A huge crystal chandelier illuminated everything. A movie I'd never seen played on the screen. I feel like, maybe I was nothing. But when you fall in love, then nothing becomes something. Something that is everything, when you are with me and set me free. I was surprised Liam was watching such a melancholy, slow-paced film. As I walked past him, he leaned down, picked up the remote, and pressed pause. My back was to him. I heard him say, "Aubrey, I don't intend to fix this mess for you a second time." I didn't understand. Turning back to look at him, Liam sat on the sofa, his eyes icy. I stopped, asking, "I don't understand." His face was cold, indifferent. "I don't know what you're trying to do, Aubrey. You eat the Maxwell's food, drink the Maxwell's water, wear the Maxwell's clothes, use the Maxwell's resources. Everyone knows you're my property. Don't you think meeting Daniel Kim every morning is a coincidence? Even if I hate you, Aubrey, you are still mine." His eyes slowly revealed a mocking glint. "I don't know if you've lost hope in me and are trying to charm others to find your own way out, but let me make it clear, don't get involved. Daniel Kim is the only son of the Kim family. They always know what they want and what's best for him. He smiles at you, helps you a few times, and you think he likes you. That is your saving grace. Aubrey, don't dream. I want you to remember this. You are my property. Understand? Even if I don't want you, you're still my property. Even if I throw you in the trash, you must stay in the Maxwell's trash. Don't get any other ideas that would embarrass the Maxwell family." I stood there for a long time, looking at Liam. After a while, I finally spoke. "Liam Maxwell, not long ago, I actually thought you weren't such a bad person. After that, I no longer met Daniel Kim on my bike or the bus. But for me, it didn't matter what Liam or Daniel Kim thought of me. I only saw Daniel Kim as a normal friend. And I no longer volunteered for the debate team's logistics. For the next 2 years, I had no intention of making friends with anyone. Liam had made me see my place clearly. I thought, in his heart, I was probably always a freeloader, a penniless orphan, worthless because I was poor. Even normal friendships were twisted into ulterior motives, greedy attempts to profit from others. I had to proactively distance myself from them. My grades were good, but I no longer tried for scholarships, because at this elite academy in City A, to get a scholarship, you not only needed good grades but also significant wealth and active participation in school clubs. I didn't like crowds, I didn't like noise, and I especially didn't like the subtle, curious glances. Liam Maxwell was very satisfied with this. Because I bore his name, he didn't like his property being too conspicuous. In his words, "Don't embarrass the Maxwell family." My obedience seemed to please him. One winter morning, Liam casually said to me, "Aubrey, you're coming to school with me tomorrow." His command wasn't a question, but a condescending decree, a benevolent handout. I had no right to an opinion, no stance to take. I stayed silent. Soon after, my pink bicycle was locked away in the basement. I started riding to school with Liam Maxwell. Even past the second spring, into early summer, Liam wouldn't let me ride my bike to school. Perhaps I should have been grateful, shedding tears of gratitude for his generosity. On Uncle Maxwell's birthday, when I was a junior, I used all my long-saved money to buy him a lighter. That year, his birthday party was packed with business associates. Amidst the celebration, Uncle Maxwell suddenly pointed at me, introducing me to everyone. Thankfully, he didn't call me his future daughter-in-law, only the daughter of a good friend, a foster daughter he considered his own flesh and blood, just as important as Liam Maxwell. He smiled warmly at me. "Aubrey, honey, why don't you play a piano piece for everyone?" I understood Uncle Maxwell's good intentions. He was introducing me to his social circle, many of whose children attended my school. I was about to graduate high school, and he was publicly expressing his regard for me, hoping I could integrate into City A's social scene. I didn't know how Uncle Maxwell knew I played piano. Since my father passed, I hadn't touched such things. In fact, not just piano, but cello, ballet, and Latin dance, I knew a bit of each. My mother was a dancer, and my father had cultivated my artistic side extensively. Not because he hoped I'd become famous, but to refine my demeanor and poise. I sat at the piano, testing a few notes to find my pitch, then played Ode to Joy, a fitting piece for the occasion. I hoped I wasn't embarrassing Uncle Maxwell. After I finished, I heard him say to Liam, his voice full of delight, "Liam, I remember you also play piano. Come play a celebratory piece with Aubrey for your old man." I thought Liam would refuse. In situations like these, neither of us wanted to be associated with the other. I looked down at the black and white keys, waiting for his refusal. But for some reason, moments later, he sat beside me, so close I could feel the warmth of his body. He tilted his head. "Fantasia in F minor. This is a four-hand piece." I said nothing, pressing a few keys. Liam, beside me, let out two low chuckles, then caught up with my rhythm. Free, joyful, melodious tunes poured from our fingertips. But contrasting with the cheerful music were Liam's whispered words in my ear. "Aubrey, he murmured amidst the notes. "Suddenly, I find our childhood engagement isn't so bad. You owe our family a debt of gratitude, moved to tears by my father's kindness, and you want to repay it. Your quiet nature. If you marry into our family, it wouldn't be so bad." My face remained impassive as I listened, my fingers gliding over the keys without a single wrong note, though the force of my touch was strong. Then, I spoke to him, expressing my clear stance to Liam for the first time. Every word was deliberate. "Liam Maxwell, I will not marry you." He scoffed, probably thinking I couldn't give up the vast wealth of the Maxwell family. He didn't take my words seriously. A new path. I did well on my college entrance exams, securing my spot in my dream major. During that time, Uncle Maxwell was ecstatic. Liam also performed well, though his scores differed from mine. As Uncle Maxwell put it, "Aubrey, Liam's scores aren't enough for the same school, but he can be in the same city as you. That way, he can look after you." Liam gave me a weary glance. "I can't go to the same school as her, but she can go to the same school as me." For some reason, he laughed, then said to Uncle Maxwell, "Anyway, you're planning for her to graduate and marry me. What good is a good school?" I looked up, glaring at him. Uncle Maxwell spoke the words I wanted to say. He looked at Liam, scolding him, "You didn't do as well as Aubrey, and you're telling her what to do? Liam, aren't you ashamed?" Then he turned to me, serious. "Aubrey, your Uncle Maxwell didn't study much back then and suffered a lot. You go wherever you want. Rest assured, whatever you do, Uncle Maxwell will support you." Uncle Maxwell was the only warmth I felt in the Maxwell household. I thanked him softly. On the day of college applications, Liam also saw my choices. Given Liam's disdain for me, I thought we wouldn't be in the same city. But on the day I received my acceptance letter, he was in the same college town as me. Before the semester started, Uncle Maxwell personally took Liam and me on a trip to Europe. When we visited Heidelberg University in Germany, for some reason, Liam asked me, "Aubrey, you say you don't want to marry me, but look. Without the Maxwell family, could you see such a vast world? You endure, you obey. Isn't it because of the money the Maxwell family invested in you?" He said these words with a sneer, full of arrogance. I knew Liam Maxwell despised me because when I first appeared before him, I was a dependent. Just as he said, I ate the Maxwell's food, used the Maxwell's things, wore the Maxwell's clothes, drank the Maxwell's water. I was like a parasite, living off the Maxwell family, living off his family. So he looked down on me with condescension and contempt, believing I was someone who came when called and left when dismissed. I couldn't blame him, only myself for not being strong enough. After the semester started, Uncle Maxwell bought Liam and me a 2-bedroom apartment off campus. I didn't live there. I applied to live in the school dorms. New school, new friends, new life. I tucked the card Uncle Maxwell gave me into the innermost pocket of my wallet. I never touched the money he sent me each month because I could support myself. Initially, I found a part-time job tutoring the daughter of a single mother. The monthly tutoring fees were enough to cover my living expenses. Additionally, a senior in my club introduced me to some modeling gigs. With my background in ballet and Latin dance, several brands became long-term partners, providing me with a high income. The confrontation. The first time Liam Maxwell came to my school was 3 months after the semester began. He waited for me below the dorms, bringing snacks Uncle Maxwell had sent. I had just finished my evening study session and was walking back with my roommate, laughing and chatting, until I heard someone call my name. "Aubrey, you." I looked up. Liam Maxwell stood beneath the camphor tree by our dorm, his tall figure holding a large bag. He looked at me. I didn't know how long he'd been watching. My smile faded. I told my roommate to go upstairs first, then walked over to him. I didn't ask why he knew my dorm or how he knew my schedule. Before I could speak, he handed me the large bag of snacks. "Yours. Dad sent them to the apartment." I politely reached out to take it, saying, "Thank you," but his hand gripped the strap tightly, unmoving. I had to look up. In the dim streetlights, his eyes held an unclear meaning. After a moment of contemplation, he said to me in an indifferent tone, "You smile very happily, Aubrey, you. At the Maxwell house, or during high school, I never saw you smile like that." I was slightly confused, but since I had plans, I subtly urged him, "Can you hurry? I have something to do." His gaze swept over my face, then he expressionlessly released the bag. Yet, his eyes remained fixed on me. I calmly smiled, took the snacks, and turned to go into the dorm. My roommate was standing on the balcony, giggling and gossiping. My best friend, Jenny, asked, "Aubrey, what's your relationship with that guy?" I thought for a moment, then casually replied, "Just friends." "Why?" Jenny looked at me, a sly smile on her face. "Just friends." She stood on the balcony, looking down, then beckoned me over. "He must be in love with you. You went up ages ago, and he's still down there." I went over and looked down. Indeed, Liam Maxwell was still standing beneath the camphor tree, head bowed, thinking about something. From his angle, he couldn't see anything, but I instinctively stepped back. Jenny and the other roommates burst into laughter, teasing me. "Aubrey, no one believes you two are just friends." I sighed, thinking to myself, we're not even normal friends. The next time I encountered Liam Maxwell was amidst rumors about him. Liam didn't attend our university, but universities often collaborated on activities, so he had some reputation at our school. What truly made him famous was the passionate pursuit of a campus queen from one of our departments. A month later, this campus queen ran into me on the street and slapped me. The surprised crowd fell silent. Liam, who had been walking behind her, grabbed her wrist, pulling her back. "Are you crazy?" he fiercely demanded. The arrogant campus queen looked at him. "Didn't you reject me because of her? Your childhood fiancé. She's just a freeloader in your house. What's she got that I don't?" My face burned. Before Liam could speak, I slapped her back. I looked at her. "I don't like conflict, and I don't intend to argue. You and I aren't acquainted, but I also don't have a habit of being slapped for no reason. This slap has nothing to do with grudges, it's simply a repayment." The campus queen's face turned scarlet. I looked at Liam, coldly. "Liam Maxwell, you always thought I had intentions toward you, but I truly hope we have no relationship whatsoever." With that, I walked past him. After that, besides studying, I made earning and saving money my second most important goal in life. Perhaps I was relatively lucky. A month later, while modeling for a brand, I received a business card from a reputable agent at a major company. She smiled. "Honey, you have great potential. Interested in making money with me?" I thought for 3 days. I wasn't ready to give up my studies, nor was I prepared to sign a long-term contract. The agent was very negotiable. Finally, I signed a short-term contract. I started modeling, playing a few supporting roles in TV dramas, shooting magazine covers, and even made a brief appearance in a movie. At that time, the university environment was simpler, and this was still a rarity. I gained some fame, becoming a campus celebrity. Most importantly, when I reconciled every penny the Maxwell family had spent on me over the years, I realized I had saved enough. The farewell. I arranged to meet Liam Maxwell for the first time in years. I proactively asked him out. I returned the card Uncle Maxwell had given me to Liam. His face was full of confusion. He raised an eyebrow, his gaze moving from the card to my face. "What do you mean?" I calmly told him, "Liam Maxwell, this is all the money the Maxwell family has spent on me over the years. I've returned it to you, calculated with bank loan interest." I smiled at him. For all these years, Uncle Maxwell has treated me like his own flesh and blood. I am very grateful. I know this money has a different meaning than Uncle Maxwell reaching out when I was at my lowest. But back then, my father also helped Uncle Maxwell, so let's call it even. For the first time since Liam taught me to ride a bike years ago, I gave him a gentle smile again. I said, "Now, I can finally say with a clear conscience that I don't owe the Maxwell family, and I don't owe you." After a pause, I continued softly, as Liam's face turned ashen. "Though I've always told you I have no intentions with you, you never believed me. Our engagement. It seems no one cares about it. But I still need to formally tell you, Liam Maxwell, our engagement is over." Years later, I still remember Liam Maxwell's face at that moment. His usual cold, indifferent expression became bewildered. He stared at me blankly, the card deeply embedded in his palm, yet he seemed completely unaware. He just looked at me as if truly seeing me for the first time. After a long time, he finally collected himself. "Is this why you took on countless part-time jobs? To draw a line between us, Aubrey you? Do you want to get my attention? Do you want to stand before me as an equal, hoping I'll give you equal love?" He seemed to want to say more, his face bewildered and conflicted. He frowned at me. But I. The next words seemed impossibly hard to utter. He inhaled, exhaled, for a long time, unable to speak. I didn't want to hear it, so I interrupted him. "No, Liam Maxwell. I don't need your attention, and I don't need to stand before you as an equal. In my heart, I've never felt inferior to anyone." I sighed, looking directly into his eyes. "Liam Maxwell, the money on this card is my respect for my own character and my life. I should return it. That's all." There's no other meaning. He just stared at me blankly. I smiled at him, tilting my head to look out the window. Birds foraged by the roadside, then spread their wings and flew into the blue sky. I told Liam Maxwell, look. We are all free. Liam's perspective. From the first time I met Aubrey Yu, I hated her. This hatred, honestly, had nothing to do with her personally. I just hated the old man's bossy, condescending way of giving orders. Liam, he'd said, I don't care what you think. Aubrey's father was our family's benefactor. I need to ensure her well-being for the rest of her life. And you are not to even think about making her feel bad. It's infuriating. Besides, why should I pay for his debt of gratitude? It was a classic case of misplaced anger. Of course, I couldn't be nice to Aubrey Yu. But honestly, she wasn't so bad. She knew her place. She wouldn't bend over backward, trying to curry favor with the Maxwell family, desperate to cling to a lifeline. She was always quiet, distant, calm, and composed. I never saw her intentionally try to please anyone or anxiously seek a foothold in the Maxwell house. Most importantly, unlike what I imagined, I could feel she always avoided me. It was amusing. Even though I hated her, I couldn't help but think she was quite astute. But that didn't change my attitude toward her. I remember her first day of school, when I told her to get out of the car. I thought she'd cry, or at least be surprised, or angrily question me. But no. As soon as I said get out, she froze for a moment, then quietly, obediently opened the car door, clutched her bag, and stood by the roadside. I carefully scanned her face, searching for any small expression, but there was nothing. She always maintained that detached, cool composure, as if every punch I threw landed on cotton, utterly frustrating. Of course, she was late. I thought she'd explain to the homeroom teacher. After all, a new transfer student, she'd probably want to leave a better impression on the teacher. But to my surprise, she said nothing. I have to say, in some ways, she was an extremely rational person. Clearly, if she'd made the impression of being late due to oversleeping, any excuse would just sound like a lie. She quickly apologized, and after that, she was never late again. The homeroom teacher, initially cold to her, later always smiled when she mentioned Aubrey. Everyone knew my attitude towards her. Everyone kept their distance out of respect for me, but I could feel their subjective opinions. They didn't dislike her. Sometimes, when chatting with friends, someone would hesitantly ask me, Liam, I think Aubrey's not bad. She's pretty and gentle, and smart. Why do you hate her so much? I'd scoff back then. Later, no one asked me that again, and no one dared to proactively befriend her. I often saw her alone, a solitary figure walking in the bustling schoolyard. For some reason, I could instantly pinpoint her location in a crowd, in the blink of an eye. But her slender figure never turned back to look at me. I knew if it weren't for me, Aubrey Yu would probably be a popular person. Many people would want to befriend her. Moreover, some said she had a gentle nature. It's funny. Perhaps only I understood her. She looked delicate and fragile, but in reality, she was more tenacious and stubborn than anyone. Like when she learned to ride a bike, no matter how many times she fell, she never cried. In fact, every time she fell, she learned from it. But each fall was a new way of falling. I stood by the window. I didn't know why I kept standing there, watching her frown, seriously studying that pink bike, watching her carefully climb on, then fall again. So stupid. A bike needs balance and speed. If she went that slowly, of course she'd fall. Before I could even think, I jumped out and went behind her to help steady the bike. It was only much later that I understood. Even before I realized my feelings for Aubrey, my subconscious had already gone ahead, leading the way, manipulating my body. Then, she rode the bike, smiling at me. It was the first time I'd seen her so happy after so long at the Maxwell house. She smiled seriously, Liam Maxwell, thank you. I looked at her, and a smile spread on my face, following hers. Suddenly, I felt annoyed. Because I suddenly thought, if only she had said one word to me, just one word, she wouldn't have to wake up half an hour early every day to bike to the bus stop. Seriously, was her life made of steel? Could she not bend a little? Why always stand so straight, act looked so weak. Was it really that hard to just bow her head a little to me? Thinking this, my expression gradually darkened. Then, I left expressionlessly, leaving her alone. If she liked biking, then bike. I was very surprised when Daniel Kim came to her class. I didn't know when she and Daniel Kim had met, or how their relationship had become so good. On the surface, they looked like normal friends, him just returning a book to her class. But I knew Daniel Kim. He might seem approachable and easy to get along with, able to chat amiably with anyone, but I knew that was just an outer facade that couldn't erase the inherent coolness and distance. He could laugh and talk, but he was absolutely not intimate. Yet, he personally brought Aubrey her book. The way Aubrey stood before him, the way she looked up and smiled, thanking him, infuriated me. They looked so familiar. I didn't know how they had become so close. I turned to the window, my expression nonchalant. The ballpoint pen in my hand snapped. I thought, no wonder she wouldn't show weakness. Turns out she already had a backup plan. I didn't need to ask. Someone had already investigated thoroughly and was gossiping to me. I heard the Kim family's driver took a break, and Daniel Kim biked to school and met Aubrey. It was a normal story, someone said, deliberately continuing. After that, Daniel Kim stopped having his driver take him and biked to school himself. Liam, isn't he interested in your childhood fiancé? I scoffed. Then invite him over. Later, I thought our relationship, mine and Aubrey Yu's, probably started deteriorating then, beyond salvation. The aftermath. Truthfully, I didn't want to say things that would hurt her, but when she stood before me, I couldn't control myself. It was like first-grade boys pulling the pigtails of the girl they liked. I couldn't control myself. I wanted to see her angry in front of me. This emotion only showed up because of me. Sure enough, she looked up at me. I saw my reflection in her eyes. Only me. Liam Maxwell, she said. Not long ago, I actually thought you weren't such a bad person. After that, she never smiled at me again. I truly didn't think she would leave or move away from me. I saw her as an object in my hand. Just as I said, she ate the Maxwell's food, drank the Maxwell's water, wore the Maxwell's clothes, used the Maxwell's resources, so she belonged to the Maxwell family. I didn't need to treat her well, and she would still be mine. So, when she placed that bank card in front of me during college, for the first time, I felt a loss of control. But she remained so calm, calmly looking at me, calmly saying, Liam Maxwell, this is all the money the Maxwell family has spent on me over the years. I've returned it to you, calculated with bank loan interest. She smiled. Beautifully. She told me, Liam Maxwell, we are all free. It was then that I understood she had always seen me as a prison. After that bank card incident, I often appeared by her side. We didn't go to the same school, so I couldn't explain why I was there. Although I always claimed to hate her, I still ended up enrolling in a university in the same city as her. At first, I thought I was just unwilling to let go. The kite, always held tightly in my hand, had suddenly broken its string and wanted to escape me, to fly into the sky. I wanted to confirm that the string could still return to my side. I texted her, asking her to dinner, using the excuse that the old man wanted me to look after her. I borrowed the old man's name to approach her. The snacks from abroad, the bracelet, the clothes the old man bought her, I'd separate them and give them to her one by one. Then, Daniel Kim reappeared by her side. I still maintained my calm facade. Later, Daniel Kim and I had dinner alone. He smiled gently, politely, and elegantly. Liam, back then, you said Aubrey was your childhood fiancé. I was young then, and I felt I couldn't touch a friend's girl. Now, it seems she doesn't owe your family anything. I like her. I want to pursue her. You don't mind, do you? I coldly looked at his smile. His smile felt like he had the upper hand. I indifferently took a sip of water, then chuckled. Please, feel free. He didn't know that the first time he gave up on Aubrey all those years ago, he lost any chance of ever entering her heart. She was an incredibly stubborn and resilient person. The old man had no reaction to Aubrey returning the money to me. I thought he'd be sad, but to my surprise, he laughed loudly, clapping his hands, praising her. Not bad. I didn't misjudge her. This girl has an unyielding pride in her bones. He looked at me, his eyes somewhat pitying. Liam, originally, I wanted you to look after Aubrey. Now, it seems she doesn't need anyone to look after her. He sighed. Don't say I'm biased towards Aubrey. You really reached too high. You're not worthy of her. I didn't respond. When Aubrey Yu brought her boyfriend home to meet the old man, I rushed back from a branch office. I wanted to see exactly what kind of person could move her. After graduating, she didn't abandon her studies for the entertainment industry, as rumored online. Instead, she focused on her academics. This guy was her senior while she was pursuing her PhD. He was a handsome, refined person. I heard his family wasn't particularly famous, but they came from a scholarly background. Both parents were university lecturers who loved each other deeply. Every gesture and movement of his exuded a calm, leisurely grace. You could tell he genuinely liked Aubrey Yu. She only left for a moment to pour water. Though he was still chatting with the old man, his gaze always rested on Aubrey's figure. I saw the way Aubrey looked at him, as if there were a galaxy in her eyes, sparkling with amusement. It was a look I had never received. Perhaps I had, back when I taught her to ride a bike. The old man was extremely pleased with Aubrey Yu's boyfriend. That evening, he called me to his study and showed me the dowry he had prepared for Aubrey Yu, as if asking for my opinion. Liam, I owe the Yu family a great debt. Aubrey already returned all the money our family spent on her. So, this dowry is from my personal account for her. She has no father or mother, she's all alone. I believe such a good child won't be ill-treated by her in-laws. But when a daughter marries, you can't let people look down on her. I stayed silent for a long time, then hoarsely said, add my share to it. As her older brother, I've done a lot of things to hurt her. The old man smiled, patted my shoulder, then sighed. If it's not yours, it's not yours. What's wrong is missing out. Look forward. Besides, perhaps Aubrey never cared about you anyway. I looked out the window. It was late autumn, and the sycamore leaves were falling in droves. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I still liked Aubrey Yu, or if I was just unwilling to let go. Just like back then, I couldn't tell if my heart skipped a beat when she smiled radiantly at me because of genuine emotion or discomfort. All I knew was that I had once been so close to her, and yet, I just let her slip away.